We're going to begin our service this afternoon for our dear Marilyn with a reading and chanting of Psalm 121. Me'ayin Yahavo Ezri Esohenai El Heharim Me'ayin Yahavo Ezri Ezri Me'im Adonai Osei Shamayim V'Haaretz Ezri Me'im Adonai Osei Shamayim V'Haaretz. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. Death has taken our beloved Marilyn Sherman. Our friends and family grieve in our darkened world. In our silence, there is lamentation. In our tears, there is loneliness. Lost in our sorrow, both family and friends, may we find God's presence. Hear us, O God, be with us. For Marilyn's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever, for her companionship that we shared along life's path and which now continues through the tenderness of memory, for the gifts of her heart and mind that brought us joy and much happiness and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. In this time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that brings us the ever-new message of God's nearness. It tells us of our kinship with the Creator, in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. This time we are going to continue as we read the 23rd Psalm. It is traditional to read the 23rd Psalm at a somber occasion such as this to bring us comfort and consolation. It is found right in front of you, and we shall read this together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. I have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We read in the book of Job that Job was a man, a spiritual man, who suffered a lot and who was tested by God. His faith was tested. And as a response to his losses, he didn't really have much to say. He only said one sentence, actually two very short ones, each one 4 words each. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevorach. God has given, and God has taken away. Blessed be the name of God. And so we join together here this afternoon as we pay tribute to the life and memory of Marilyn Sherman. We now join our collective voices with Job, who simply said, Adonai natan, God, you have given. You have given us Marilyn, who will not be forgotten. for all that was good and for all that was enduring in her life. We now offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Job continues, Adonai lakach, God, you have taken away. We now pray for the inner strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust, before which we acknowledge your sovereignty and love. As we conclude with Job in his statement of faith, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach, blessed be the name of God, now and forever. Amen. Before we pause for a few moments of silent meditation as we reflect upon our own memories, personal memories of Marilyn, I wanted to share with you that in our Jewish tradition, we do not believe that the soul dies with the body. Our tradition believes that the soul returns unto God, its original source. And for those of us who are rational thinkers, the most that I could tell you is this. To think about this rationally is to picture an ocean wave. And you can see it out there in the ocean, visible. But what happens to it when it reaches the shore and when it reaches the beach? It doesn't disappear. It's not a wave. It just returns its original properties right back into the ocean. It is of an entirely different dimension. And so as we pause for these few moments, let us reflect upon these personal memories we shared with her, particularly the good times that she shared with all of you. And let us all, in our own personal way, wish her soul a good journey. May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Now I would like, as we begin to eulogize and pay tribute and celebrate Marilyn's life, I'd like to invite her three lovely daughters, to come up to the podium and share some wonderful thoughts about their mother.
Thanks for being here with us today. I'm Amy.
I'm Shira. I'm Raina.
And we're Marilyn's daughters. The arc of our mom's life was quite remarkable. She was born in a very small town in southern Minnesota. Her father was a farmer for a brief time and then a banker, and her mother a school teacher. She had an older brother, John, and they were very close. Her family was incredibly kind and intelligent. We remember visiting her hometown of Keister when we were children. It was a small grid of streets surrounded by cornfields. The fields and sky seemed to go on forever, and to us kids, it appeared that there was absolutely nothing to do there. As children from Brash, New York, we could hardly imagine growing up the way she did. After high school, she went on to become a nurse, which was a great fit for her caring and competent nature. She worked in the ICU unit where she took care of people with critical needs. She was a problem solver, organized and level-headed. She had more than a few stories of how the doctors turned to her for guidance.
Our mom grew up in a time that was very different from now, and her life traversed the changing times of what it meant to be a woman. She was raised to be a good, nice girl and was not taught to ride a bicycle or to learn how to swim because she was a girl. But during the course of her life, our mom and her generation challenged these societal norms. She was a part of the generation of women who burned their bras. She once told us a story about this, which I will not repeat the details, but let's just say it wasn't for her. Mom was courageous and chose to lead a life quite differently than the one initially presented to her. From the cornfields of Minnesota, her life would take her through vastly different landscapes. She met our father working in a hospital in Minneapolis, and they moved to Detroit to raise their children. When she encountered Judaism, she found her home. She told us that she never quite felt like she belonged until she found Judaism. At our childhood synagogue in New York, she sang in the choir, was a member of their sisterhood, and had a bat mitzvah in her 40s. Shabbat dinners were always honored at our house, and our mom took special pride in lighting the Shabbat candles with her 3 girls. She traveled the world, rode on camels, went on safari, and climbed Mayan temples. When the occasion presented itself, she enjoyed dressing to the nines and always had lipstick in her purse. She played piano and loved to bake banana bread. We considered ourselves lucky to have a home-cooked dinner most every night. Our friends knew this as well and often snuck over for her tasty food. She loved to garden, and every Mother's Day we would help her plant what felt like a billion flowers. She taught her girls to be independent and always encouraged us to try new things in our lives. We are lucky to have a mom that did not judge our life choices, even when they looked a lot different than what our peers were doing. But she knew what that was like. Of course, we also learned how to swim and ride bikes. And so did she. We would always know when the Mets were playing, as she could be heard throughout the house shouting for Keith Hernandez to hit a home run. She loved her morning coffee and always her peanut butter, nature documentaries, and crossword puzzles. After surviving breast cancer, she was ready to start a new chapter. She boldly packed her bags and, along with our dog Casey, drove south to Florida. Soon after, she met the love of her life at a dance. How endearing to know that both of their parents had met at dances as well. With Alan, she found a harmony she had never before experienced. She loved being a Rebbitzin, and their relationship was very loving and supportive. They created a blended family with all of the Shermans, and we knew our mom was well cared for. She loved being a Sherman. She became a hospice nurse and formed lasting friendships with her coworkers. Whenever we visited her, we all delighted in visiting the beach, looking for alligators in the old Florida swamps. Like every family, we went through difficult times together, but our mom and her 3 little chickies always stuck together. She has taught us the value of being kind to others and treating everyone with respect. We have never known a more loving, courageous, and resilient woman. She was the best and sweetest mom, loved by so many, and we will miss her very much.
As you heard, Marilyn and I met at a dance in Boca, and my first impression of Marilyn was here was a woman who had understated elegance, best way I could describe it. Not flashy, understated elegance. I was very impressed with her, and that began kind of our love story. And after a while, I started to call her my Norwegian princess. She liked that. And then I decided to pop the question, or not, as I'll tell you. We were on a cruise with a family, hers, daughters, and mine, and I was trying to figure out how to do this. So I saw a ring, how to give a ring, on QVC. The ring was $25 and came in a cardboard box. And I went to Bloomingdale's and I took it out of the cardboard box and I had them wrap it up in this velour, very expensive box. And I gave her a Rebbitzin certificate. That time I was president of the Board of Rabbis, so I had the seal. And I made it official, and I looked for a private place to do this, and I gave her the certificate, and then she was kind of surprised about that, and then I gave her the ring with this beautiful box, and she opened it, and she looked at it, and she said, "This looks like Pam's ring." Her exact words. And I said, "Nah, I don't think so." So she said to me, she looked and she says, "Are you asking me to marry you?" I never really asked the question, I told you. And I said, "I guess so." And that began our engagement. And she came down the next morning to breakfast on the cruise ship with this $24 ring from QVC, showing it off to her family, and they didn't know the difference. It was pure glass, and that was it. But the reason I did that was because I wanted her to pick out her own ring. So I told her, I said, we'll go out and pick you something that you like. But this was just for a surprise. Half of my family thought I was nuts, and the other half of the family thought that was the greatest thing. They're still arguing about it today. Marilyn's mother, Ruth, and her middle name was Ruth. At a young age, Marilyn told me that she would make a wonderful minister's wife. Now, Marilyn grew up Lutheran, and I guess the idea was that she would marry a Lutheran minister. Well, she wound up a minister's wife, but just of a different religion. Of course, she became this Rebbitzin, but she was a very spiritual person in many ways. In some ways, more spiritual than me. Well, first, as you heard from her daughters, she lit candles, she belonged to the synagogue and all that, and I won't review that. But she also was a Reiki master. I don't know if everybody knows what that is. I'm not sure I really do to this point. It was explained to me 100 times, but I'm not sure. And she was a healing touch practitioner. And, healing touch practitioners don't really touch your body. They kind of wave their hands over you, and there's healing involved in all of that. You can look it up on Google if you wished. I'm not sure. But I'll tell you that Marilyn was a very, very caring nurse, as you heard. Marilyn cared for our parents, my brothers are here, in hospice. My dad certainly was in the inpatient unit down by Hospice by the Sea, and she was one of his nurses, and also kept very, very strict supervision over the nurses over at Morse Life with my mother as well. Her colleagues who are here today from Hospice by the Sea were her team, and she loved you all. And she really did. She really did. And the note that I got from one of her colleagues, Mary, was something special. She wrote me that she was a wonderful nurse, and her patients would never forget her for what they did for their loved one. Marilyn was so good that she was offered a promotion in hospice to be a supervisor, which obviously meant more money, and she turned it down. She talked with me about it, and she said, "No, I'm not going to take this position because I don't want to be a manager. I want to work directly with the patients." So she turned down the promotion. Everybody wanted her to be the supervisor because she's so sweet and nice, but she said she didn't want to do that. She wanted to do with patient care. The residents at the Tradition and Morse Life loved her, probably more than me. And she made many, many friends at Morse Life with those who were attending services at Morse because they had loving family members who were patients at Morse Life as well. And she also helped me with funeral services as well. I'll mention one that happened right here at this podium, which was an interesting one. We were at the outlet mall, And we were shopping, and I received a call from the funeral director here. I won't mention his name. He's a nice person, okay? And he said, would I be able to do a funeral? And I said, sure. He said, when? He said to me, right now. I said, right now? He said, yeah, how fast can you get over here? And I said, I'm in a t-shirt, shorts, and sneakers. I'd have to go back to Wellington, change. He said, well, you can't do that. I have 100 people sitting right where you are, and no rabbi, because the funeral home forgot to get the rabbi, and the family forgot to get the rabbi, no rabbi. So I said, you check with the family first and find out whether this is okay, because I'm not going to show up walking down this middle aisle with a t-shirt and shorts. So he comes back to me and he says, oh, family's fine with it. Family's fine with it. They're okay. Just get over here as soon as possible. So I came over with the outlet mall, parked in front, walked down, did the service in t-shirt and shorts. We go out to the interment service, and the funeral director says, if anybody has a cell phone, do not take any pictures of this. No pictures. But she supported me through this. The other one was even more interesting. The other one happened in a funeral home in Beth Israel down in Boynton Beach, where a member of my community passed away, and several people wanted to give a eulogy. And I mean, I'm talking about 5 or 6, and I got kind of sleepy. You know, I was tired of hearing the same thing over and over and over, and I went into my meditative trance, which I just kind of check out, but I'm not really totally sleeping. Have you ever, you know what that state is, kind of, you know? And I'm just, waiting for this to be over. Now, Marilyn's not sitting with me. She's on the other side. She's at the funeral because this is one of our neighbors. She's looking at me. She thinks I'm asleep. Totally gone. So now she's thinking, what do I do? Do I go over to wake him up, as the service is going on? Or do I go to the funeral director and tell the funeral director to go wake the rabbi up? So she was really, really nervous. She was just about to go to the funeral director and tell him about this story. And thank God, the last of the eulogies finished. I woke up, finished the service, and that was that. But I said to Marilyn after the service, Marilyn, if you had gone to that funeral director and told the funeral director that the rabbi was asleep at the service that he was conducting, I said that would have ruined my career. Totally. Totally. I'll say this, and I'm almost done. Marilyn had what we say a pure neshama, a pure soul. She really, really had a pure soul. Not a bad bone in her body. And our tradition says, recites a special prayer for that. And she was what we call an Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor. And this is from the book of Proverbs, chapter 31, and I do certainly believe that she earned this honor, and I'll read it to you now. Eshet Chayil miyamtza, a woman of valor, who can find? She is more precious than fine pearls. Her husband trusts in her, and so he lacks nothing. She does him good, never harm, all the days of her life. She perceives that her labor is rewarding. Her candle burns on into the night. She reaches out to those in need and extends her hands to the poor. She is clothed in strength and dignity, and she faces the future cheerfully. She speaks with wisdom. The law of kindness is on her lips. Her children rise up and bless her. Her husband sings her praises. Many daughters have done valiantly, but you excel them all. So in conclusion, we ask ourselves the question of where shall we find comfort and consolation? This is a celebration of her life. We miss her, but we celebrate her life. And for that, I would say, think of some of the wonderful memories that you shared with her, the fun that you had with her from all of these families. There are all the families gathered here loved her so much in different capacities throughout her life. She lived a wonderful life, a life worth celebrating, a complete life. She leaves behind a family that will continue to go on, wonderful grandchildren on all sides, on all sides, and she will be missed and loved so much. May her memory forever be remembered for a bracha, for a blessing. And let us all say amen. We're going to conclude our service here in the chapel with the El Mole Rachamim, with the God full of mercy, who consoles us in our sorrow. I'd ask you, if you're able to please rise. Excuse me. El Mole Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamsei Menucha Nechono, Tachat Kanfei Hashchino, B'malot Kedoshim Utahorim, Kizohat Harakia Masirim, Et Nishmat Ruth Bat Avraham, Sheholcha Liolama, Began Eden Tehei Menuchata, Ana Baal Harachamim, Yastireha Beseter Kenafav Liolamim, V'yitzrohor B'tzrohor HaChaim, Et Nishmata, Adonai Hu Nachalata, B'tanuach, B'shalom, Al Mishkava, V'nahomar, Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, may you grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to the soul of Marilyn Sherman, who has now entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance, and may she forever rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. Please remain standing. There are a few announcements that I'd like to make at this time. We will have a interment service, a committal service to take place directly following the conclusion of our service here. It is directly to your left and my right. It's within walking distance. If you're unable to walk, transportation will be provided to you. It's an easy walk right down the sidewalk to the Sherman estate. So that will be pretty brief. I would say that would be about 15 minutes. That would be before that would be over. The Shiva would be observed at our residence, the Sherman residence, following the service, following the interment service, until 4:30. That would be today only at our residence at 8885 Via Brillante, Wellington, Florida, and that is directly across from the Wellington Hospital on the corner of 441 and Forest Hill Boulevard. For those who wish to make contributions in Marilyn's honor and in her memory, the family has asked that they be made to the World Wildlife. It's printed in your little booklets, or Trustbridge Hospice, who took care of her at the last stage of her life. For those of you who are going to the committal service, the Kaddish will be found on the back of the pamphlet. Please take them with you. And for those who are not going and want to come back to the house, we'll see you there. Okay? Do you have any other announcements, Gina?